In October, a Wall Street Journal article detailed some Gruden emails that had racist, anti-gay, and misogynistic language. 3 days later, more emails came out in the New York Times. Gruden resigned that night. Well, last night, Gruden spoke at the Little Rock Touchdown Club in his first public appearance since the scandal.
I'm ashamed about what has come about in these emails, and I'll make no excuses for it. It's shameful. But I am a good person. I believe that. I go to church. I've been married for 31 years. I got 3 great boys. I still love football. I've made some mistakes, but I don't think anybody else in here hasn't. And I just ask for forgiveness, and hopefully I get another shot.
So that was Jon last night, and I'm not exactly sure when that took place, but last night was when it was released, and we all got to see it, and you heard some of the reaction there. So obviously there's a lot of reaction. He's someone that each of us in our own ways have known. Booger played for him. He was on my show every single week for 9 years, so we all have our own different feelings on all of this. Kmart, I'll start with you. What was your reaction to what Jon Gruden said? And I suppose the idea he's saying he hopes he gets another shot, the idea that someday he might get another chance in the NFL.
Well, the thing that stood out to me was the real lack of contrition. It was, hey, I'm sorry about what came about, but I go to church. So, and I've been married a long time. So you guys off the bat know that I'm a good person, and everybody makes mistakes. That rubbed me the wrong way because the apology didn't seem sincere. That said, it was over 500 million emails that were almost like 500,000 emails that were released, and only his emails that he sent were released. I always want to know what more was said out there, and I thought that part was unfair. But at the end of the day, this is language used by him, and if you're the NFL, I don't know how you make that okay. His entrance back into the NFL. Racist, anti-gay, like I just don't know how you do it. More than that, though, his competency as a football coach, like that to me, when he got the job, he was talking about, I want to take this team back to like the 50s when we're running the ball. Like, you have a report recently where he could have gotten Tom Brady and Gronk, and he said no. It's like questions about, has the game passed him by? Is he still a good coach? Retreads, like I think there's the Jon Gruden football coach. Is it worth it to give him another shot? You can make a case. Not really. The game has moved on, and there are a lot of other minds that deserve that job more than him. And then obviously this stuff.
Booger, you played for him in Tampa. You won a Super Bowl with him as your head coach in Tampa. What was your reaction to what he said?
Yeah, I think you can tell after about a year that he's kind of ready to get out and face the music. And, I've never been one to really judge people's apology because I think certain people are comfortable saying certain things and trying to put it in certain terms and context, and who are we to judge it? I try to take him and say, you know what? He got in front of a microphone, even though it was a limited crowd, and tried in his way to own what he said. It may be good for some, it may not be good for others. And here's what I'll say. I do not think he'll ever work in the NFL again. I do think, though, there's a way if he wants to be involved in football, I think he can. I think we live in a country that if you just go back over the last 20, 30 years, there are some people that have said and done some outlandish things. And those people are back in the public light and doing pretty well. I think the NFL boat has probably sailed, but I do think Jon Gruden can be a productive member of football society in some form if he chooses to, because as time moves on, evidence has shown us that this country will forgive and move on, even though some of us may not be able to do it right today.
Yeah, there's a difference between forgiveness and forgetting,
right.
And maybe the line between those two would be a place that he can find a way back in. We'll have to wait and see. Rob Ninkovich, what was your reaction?
Yeah, listen, we all make mistakes, and I do believe in forgiveness. I would say this, when me and my wife have ever been in an argument and I try to apologize for it, she never accepts the word "but" after the apology, because that's something that she's always said. If I'm apologizing for something, don't follow it with "but," because then it's trying to justify or make it less of a big deal. So whenever I am in an issue, I try to never say "but." So that's the one thing that in that what he was doing. I don't like the but. I just don't like the but. So again, I do believe that we all make mistakes, and there's time for forgiveness. And that apology just seemed a little bit less sincere.
Yeah, I think that was one of the problems. I agree with Booger. Not everyone is comfortable, and that is, by its nature, an uncomfortable moment. But when you follow the words "I'm sorry" with "but," and you say "but" more loudly than you said any of the previous words,
right.
And you also don't need to be the one who says lots of people make mistakes or we all make mistakes. We get that. We all know we all make mistakes. The first time you come out and say you're sorry, I think the best way to do it is to say, my words were shameful, and I ask your forgiveness. He said those words. He said a lot of other words that I think will make a lot of people miss the words that he really needed to say first and foremost. I have no idea if he will get another opportunity. To that, I repeat, just someone responded, he wants more. They already offered that. Lamar Jackson himself responded, no, they didn't. That's Lamar, breaking news, real time on Twitter, telling us exactly where these negotiations aren't. And in case you thought that might still leave some room for interpretation, someone named Will posted a picture of Lamar Jackson in a Dolphins uniform, and Lamar Jackson liked it. In this day and age, that is tantamount to demanding a trade. I don't know what else to say. Kimberly Martin, this does not sound, these do not sound like the tweets of a happy person, right, of a happy Raven. This is a guy who is telling the world, this is what this team's not offering me. This is a place where I could see myself being very happy someday. Lamar Jackson is sending a message, isn't he?
Dear Ravens, please get this deal done, because look at what I have to deal with. I am tired. I don't know. Like, Lamar, Steve Bisciotti, sit down at the table and do this $250 million guaranteed so we can all get on with our lives. I think until this deal is done, until Lamar gets paid, we will be talking about whether Lamar wants to be in Baltimore, when, in all honesty, I think Lamar is really just having fun. I'm trying to be the voice of reason here. I don't think this Florida boy is really saying, I want to go to Miami. I think he just liked to tweet. I think he's having some fun, and Mark Andrews, his tight end, has said this to the media, like he's having fun with all of this. But until this deal is done, it leaves, we're going to fill the silence with our own speculation. And that is why, dear Ravens, it is imperative that before week 1 starts, you guys get this done.
Are they going to? Kmart, simply put, are they going to? Because at the end, this may be fun and it may not be fun. His idea of fun may be different from my idea of fun. Okay? I'm not going to quarrel about that. But what I'm going to say is that this does not sound like something you post if you think you're on the 1-yard line of getting a $230 million guaranteed contract.
I think Lamar just wants it clear. No, I was not offered $250. I think he wants to set the record straight in some ways that he can. I am not optimistic that it gets done by week 1.
And then what?
Then this is my life for the next year, that we will be talking about Lamar. I think then it gets into the situation of, like, the Ravens have control from the standpoint that they can franchise him multiple times. They can go the Kirk Cousins Washington route, which nobody wants to see because both sides want to be together. But once the season starts and they pause negotiations, then everything's on the table. And you know, if they don't want to pay Lamar, somebody will. That is the reality for Baltimore. Somebody will pay this man, and they should.
Look, we live in a world now, Ninko, and of course you played not that long ago, but things change pretty fast in the world in which we live today. You lived in a world where the only reaction would be, don't set foot on that field without getting all the guaranteed money, blah, blah, blah. But all of a sudden, in a world where Kirk Cousins, who you just mentioned, without being the best quarterback in the NFL, has made by far the most money of anyone in the NFL in recent years. And then Dak Prescott suffered the worst thing that could possibly happen, a terrible injury while on the franchise tag, and still managed to get the enormous contract. Are we okay, and by we I guess I mean, are you okay with Lamar Jackson playing this year without a contract extension?
That's a really hard question. That's a really tough one, because if I'm the agent, I'm looking at
He doesn't have an agent.
That's the problem.
I know.
I'm
saying if I was his agent, because he doesn't have an agent. So if you're his agent, you're trying to get a deal done. If he doesn't have an agent, who's his voice of reason? Who's helping him along the way and going out there and playing? Me personally, even if I had 150, 200 million, that's so hard to turn it down. It's tough because of the risk involved in his style of play. We know that he's a physical guy. We know he runs. He's always going to be athletic. He's always going to be out of the pocket. That's how he plays football. So again, there's more risk involved in him playing than a guy that's, say, a pocket quarterback who isn't going to be scrambling and looking for first downs. So again, I personally would want him to sign a contract and not step foot on a field until he had a contract. But this isn't up to the agent now. This is up to Lamar and his family, whoever's helping him out, to make that decision. So it's going to be whatever he decides to do. You got to say, hey, I support him, because if he goes out there and plays, bets on himself and wins big, he's going to make $300 million. So I think the only thing you worry about is injury, which is a realistic thing in football, obviously.
These numbers just keep going up, right? They're not going in the opposite direction. I mean, these numbers are going to keep going up. Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert next year, these numbers are going to go through the roof. All right, we'll see where that goes. Meanwhile, Kmart, a lot of news out there. Let's run the hurry up through a bunch of it, starting in Buffalo.